Good day, good day, good day. Welcome everyone to yet another episode of the Impact Podcast. We are so excited that you joined us yet again. We are here. We are here, which means that today went well enough for us to show up. And either way, we show up anyway. So here we are. And today we are excited. We do have a guest. But before that, we always tell you, you guys know that this podcast is real people. And so Obiama is not with us. She is on a cruise. Her birthday just passed. So she's not with us today. And Damaris is here with us, but
Hello, everyone.
yes, she will not be on camera, but you will hear her powerful voice. She is tending to responsibilities as well, but showed up as always. And we'd like to say welcome to our guest, Miss Marjorie Carroll. Miss Marjorie, would you like to share a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Sure. Well, first of all, it's an honor to be asked by these ladies to be on the podcast tonight. I am a newly preschool director only since January, so it's kind of all new to me. I am a retired teacher of 31 years, taught in elementary school in New Jersey, so it's kind of a completely different world for me, and I'm living it, and I'm trying to make it work.
And you are. So it's so interesting, guys.
She's not trying. She is.
Exactly. When we first had this conversation, it was like it was interesting because you started sharing stuff, and we were like, oh, retired teacher. Oh, didn't even know you were that new of a director. I had no idea, and so I thought it would be a perfect opportunity for us to be able to kind of get that backstory, because I think we hear about the teachers who retire and then we hear about new directors, but to have all of that in one, if you could please give us a little bit of a backstory on you taught for 31 years. What did that look like just from a teacher perspective? Because we don't get that a lot. So I think it'd be for everyone.
Well, I started right out of the gate at 21, and I taught in the same school for actually the same district for 31 years. I taught 1 year in one school, just getting my foot in the door. And then I transferred to another school in the same district, and that's where I stayed for 30 years. And I loved it. I mean, I really, really did. I got my master's in developmental reading. So reading was really my niche, so to speak. That's where I kind of found my footing. I loved being able to teach young children who were struggling in the reading process, to get them to that point where you could literally see the switch flip on. And it was like, And I used to say to my fifth grade parents when I taught fifth grade, I would say to them very confidently at back to school night that I know many of you are sitting there thinking, my child just hates to read. And I said to them, I can guarantee you by June, your child will love to read. And it wasn't a matter of would they be able to or could they, but they would love it. Right now, I'm currently tutoring right here in Queen Village, a second grader, and he came into it with the same thing. He couldn't stand to read. It was like he was going to go to the dentist and have a tooth pulled if his mom asked him to read. And she just literally told me about 2 weeks ago that he said his new favorite thing is reading. So it's that bit of it that kind of brings me, joy in the end. But yeah, that was kind of my experience. I did a lot of different things in my 31 years of teaching. I was a second grade teacher for 13 years. I was a fourth grade teacher, fifth grade teacher, reading specialist. And for a few years, I did intervention and referral services, which is the process. It's kind of the bridge between regular ed, keeping them out of special ed. So how could we remediate them within the classroom, building on the strengths of the teachers? What resources could I help them to get to kind of help this child where they were at? So lots of things, lots of different things. I also went back to school again.
Oh, did you?
And got my my principal certificate and my supervisory certificate, as well as my reading specialist certificate. So I love learning, and I like to pass that joy on to others.
Awesome. Oh my goodness.
Wow. What a what a background. That's an amazing background.
And I taught in the same school. My children went to that school, so it was kind of nice, through fifth grade, to have all my girls I have 3 children. So at one point they all kind of came through, and to experience all the milestones that I had seen children go through for so many years, the concerts and the moving up ceremony and the overnight trip to camp and all those things that we did in my school, but then to experience it with my own girls was a unique opportunity. So that was kind of special as well.
I love it. Thinking about, because I know we talk a lot about reading, and you mentioned so many words that popped out, right? Like reading, when the light bulb went off, kind of that moment where it went from I hate reading to okay, I'm reading to I love it. What happens in that moment? What is it that you're providing them to help them cross over from one to the other? And I'm wondering if we could tap into that to say, okay, that's where we need to hone in at, where some of our children may be struggling. And that's the key.
Yeah. I think the common denominator in all my struggling readers that I ever encountered was just feeling defeated by the reading process, and just feeling like I can't do it. It's so hard for me. Why should I bother? Any of us, we're going to hate something that we don't do well. We're not going to want to persevere at it. But yet with reading, you have to, and it often, it broke my heart to have kids say, I hate this. Not just that I don't want to do it. I mean, it was always, I hate this. And so, I kind of just look at it. Well, I knew I had the tools to get them to the point where they could feel more confident. And I think that was the key. You just have to give them little successes, let them see that they could do this. And then if they can do this, they can do this. And you build on those little successes and celebrate those small moments. And then before they know it, they're reading, and they're reading with joy, and they're reading with comprehension, and they're choosing to read as a fun activity, and I think it's all about just empowering them, giving them the tools, knowing that if you get stuck on a word, it is not the end of the world. Just dig down deep into your tool bag, pull out what you need, and you got this. And just building that confidence. And I think that really was the key to helping my kids learn how to read.
Can I interject here for a minute? I want to say, Marjorie, I found a passionate, devoted teacher like you in my life when I was very young. And I wasn't the best student. I hated math. And a teacher, and I was always in trouble, always. I went to 5 to 6 different high schools because I was thrown out of every high school. And I found one teacher, she literally devoted, like really spent her time with me into trying to connect. And then all of a sudden I realized, wow, I'm pretty good at this, math. And she gave me the courage, which was there the whole entire time. Like the skill set was there, right? It's me finding my way. And, sometimes, and that's why I'm so passionate about what I do for a living. I want to be that person for that child, right? I want to be that person that child remembers in the future as an adult and says, Mr. Maris helped me get through this. And this is why I'm leading to where I'm at today. And do you have any students like that actually that have come back to you and say, I know you mentioned one of the students that likes math. Now, I think likes reading right now. You was talking about, but have you had a student come back to you and like a professional right now, and you're like, yeah, that's my I made that happen.
Yeah, yeah. Living in the town where I taught, we lived there for over 20 years. So I would very often run into previous students. They were either working at a local food store or, we'd be on the ball fields or wherever. And I often had both students and parents come back to me with that. Or we'd have students who wrote letters when they were in high school. Part of their writing project was to send a letter back to an elementary teacher who made a difference. Kind of another cool thing we did is we went to a camp. We took our fifth graders to a camp. We used to go 2 nights, 3 days, and it was really a character building, out of your comfort zone, trying things, in the woods where some of these kids never been. And we passed journals around, and we had the kids every year write in a journal. And at the end of the weekend, we buried the journals under a tree. And then the next year we would dig up those journals and we would read aloud from previous years. And so we did, I went, except for when I was pregnant or giving birth, those 3 years that I had my girls, I went to this camp with our fifth graders for, I probably went 20 times. So, like I said, I went almost every year. And so you'd read these conversations or these comments that the kids would make. And I realized I wasn't just making a difference in their reading life, but they would be like, Mrs. Carroll was down at the bottom of the tower and cheering me on, telling me I could do it, and not just me. I mean, there was, all the teachers the teachers who went on this trip had a passion for children and their growth in all areas, and more so their personal area than academics. Yeah, we were worried about academics, or we were encouraging, and obviously teaching. But for me, I agree, Damaris. I think it's about coming alongside a child. I had my first principal that I had for many, many years was, he was a great person to grow under. And I'm talking about me as a teacher. And he said, even your most difficult children, find one thing, yes, they might drive you crazy. They never turn in their homework. And yes, they're always calling out. And yes, they're always fooling around. And they're never listening. But find one thing that you can treasure about them. One thing that you can look at that kid and say, wow, he is amazing in this way, or she is amazing in this way. And when you look at them, think of that, when you're about to, get frustrated or whatever, think of that one thing. And so I always, even with my struggling readers, I would think of, how can I validate them as a person first? And then we'll deal with the reading one step at a time. Like I said, build those successes. And before you know it, it's all about relationship. For me, it's all about relationship.
Agree. And both of you are reminding me about what I saw with my mom, the years, right? So even before I came into childcare, everyone, like Miss Linda, has been doing this for 40 years now. But as a child growing up in a home that had a childcare program in it, and then being with her years later, and you have kids walking up to her who are no longer kids anymore, remembering, the hot meal. I remember when you taught us how to hook latch was a thing years ago, like all of these memories. And that's what I remember. So when it came time for me to have the opportunity to partner with her, I didn't know childcare in regards to, I had never been a director before, but what I remember were those relationships and what I saw in the interaction between that child and my mom, who she imparted something in their life, and I wanted to be a part of that. And it was like, I love that, and I want to continue that on for other children and families, because like you're saying, that very thing is what will impact someone's life for the rest of their lives, right? Someone who showed them I can in that one area, it was a ripple effect in every other area. And now I feel like I can do it if I just apply it. And so That's the power I feel like we have every single day, just being in children's lives and families' lives too.
Mhm.
Because we have parents who also they come in and they share their successes. I have one parent who went back to school, and I will never forget. She came in and was like, Miss Aaliyah, oh my god, it was really having a hard time. And when I was like, well, we can sit, get your calendar, we're gonna figure out how we can manage stuff. We're gonna get it together. And I saw her and she's like, Miss Aaliyah. It was a different Miss Aaliyah this time. And she's like, I got a 97 point something. I was like, there we go. It, everyone needs that, whether they are, one, whether they are 80, like we all need that. And so I love that you share that. And I think it's a perfect segue into asking you about what made you retire. Right. So we all know, right. There was a love and you taught for 31 years.
Yeah.
That you retired. So
and I did retire a few years early, and by early, I mean, before my pension, I got a full pension, I retired at 53 instead of 55. And I have to say, there was a few reasons, COVID being foremost and upfront. So, as we went into COVID, at the time I was an intervention teacher. So I was teaching K-3 reading. And so when COVID hit and they were scrambling, we finished that year and I taught, I continued teaching my small groups and my individuals. But, when you're dealing with, we were dealing with a different demographic at that time. So there was a range of demographics in the town where I lived. And I found that my struggling readers they weren't consistent in getting on the Zoom and attending class and doing what they needed to do. And that was discouraging, it was discouraging, when I'd have a group of fifth graders and, one would turn his camera on and fall right back asleep. And, half of them weren't even out of bed and the other half weren't there. And the ones that I really needed weren't showing up. So that was difficult. And then the next year we were, our building was kind of half and half. We were half at home, still virtual, and half in the building. And I was in the building. And so the way that they utilized me was to, they wanted their homeroom teachers to have a very small class, so only 12 students. And so for half the morning, whoever was in the building, that half would be doing their academics in their homerooms. And then after lunch, the groups would flip-flop. So the group that I had in the morning would now be in academics. So I was basically a glorified babysitter at that point. So I was told, oh, just do something with reading, you're just an enrichment. Just keep them, they were focused on, let's continue getting reading into them. Let's continue getting math. And that was the job of the homeroom teacher. And then us interventionists were just keep them occupied, more or less. And that was disheartening. I mean, I put 110% and I tried to develop a program that was enriching and, but again, you were limited. We were limited to an iPad or a laptop. We couldn't really share materials. We couldn't share books. We couldn't, so we were limited with what. So that was discouraging. And then so the third year out, when the kids were coming back, I had a decision: do I stick with it? And I knew, because part of the pattern that was happening is that enrichment teachers were being used, and this is even before COVID, we were being pulled as substitutes. So if teachers were absent, we were being pulled to be substitutes. And the substitute shortage got so bad that I was a substitute more than I was a reading teacher. And I just knew that pattern was going to continue. I knew behavior was going to be crazy because I had seen it, the past 2 years during COVID, and then when we were kind of back. And I just felt that I was just ready to get out, that I didn't have enough energy or love of what I was doing at this point to do that. So I did take a slight cut in my pension, and we were planning on moving to Philadelphia at that point. So I retired. Yeah, it was a hard decision. It really was. I wasn't loving what I was doing in the past 3 years, but I had loved my job before that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's another look. We always talk about the impacts that COVID has had.
Hmm.
I have a lot of teacher friends, and they shared Marjorie the same story.
Yeah, it takes your
Stories.
joy. It took your joy away. It really did.
Yes.
It really did. And I do have to say, even before COVID, we had a new principal, and that principal was taking my joy away. I had gone from such a nurturing, I called him like he was a replacement father to me. He was a teddy bear. Like you could just be having a bad day and he would just come up alongside of you and give you a big hug. He was the one who taught me relationships matter before anything else. Um, and then
He not
and then the principal I had was a micromanager. Like there was no joy. It was just teaching for the test,
Well,
being
that's
micromanaged.
another example of bad leadership, right?
Yeah, it was horrible. It was a I know my friends who are still there now are just not experiencing anything much better. It's just someone who I bumped heads with previously, um, as far as our belief in and how reading should be taught, and a lot of pedagogical kind of belief systems. We were on different pages when she was in a different position. Then she became our principal, and just wasn't for me. It was just, I think I was getting so many messages from different places that I knew it was I wanted to go out while there was still some love, for the profession in me. I didn't want to be totally burned out and leaving at that point.
So what brought you to childcare? Let's leave that question.
That's a big
Brought you to early learning.
Yeah, that's an interesting story. So when I retired in June of 2020, we moved to Philly August of 2020, like right after. And so my husband's an architect in the city, and we both went to Temple, and he'd always wanted to live back in the city. So I said, all right, let's do it. Our kids are out. My youngest is in college here in Philadelphia. And I said, let's do it. I'm game, So we sold our house of 22 years, and here we are in this cool little Queen Village area. And so I was looking for something part-time because I just didn't want to not do anything. And I was walking, I had seen at the preschool where I am, I had seen that they were hiring, and I'm like, no, nothing with children. I'm done. Nothing with children. I really was adamant. And so one day I was walking with my oldest daughter, and she said, look, Mom, like Beanstalk, they're hiring. And I said, I don't know. I don't think so. Well, anyway, it just kept niggling. And I finally called, and I went in, and I just wanted like to be an aide, like just being an aide, give me 12 hours of work. I just wanted like do something. And they were like, no, after they heard my background, there's like, there's no way I can pay you. Like, I'm not going to pay you $12 an hour to like we can't do that. That's, they just couldn't do it. And I'm like, no, it's fine. And then we ended up agreeing that I was going to be a consultant. And I was a reading specialist in the junior kindergarten class, and I did some mentoring for some young teachers. And the first year I worked 6 hours. The second year I worked 9 hours. Like it wasn't a lot. I even got another part-time job. Became a pharmacy tech at Rite Aid.
Did you love it? Did you love it, or it was?
I loved learning about it, and it was a lot to learn. I had to do pharmacy school online, like 120 hours of this, learning all this. It was so out of my wheelhouse, but I felt like my brain was working again. And I did that for almost a year. And that was at the point where these ladies called me, and they said, how about if you're up for it, take over our school, like save our school. That's how they said it to me, save our school. And I think they felt just after COVID and some bad management that, they were in a position where they really they saw potential in me.
Yeah.
And thought that I was the right person for the job. And I think anyone who is in early childhood, I feel like it's truly a calling more than it is a profession. I mean, yes, it's a profession and there's lots to learn, but I think it takes, I think, I really did feel like it was a calling, and I had to have a discussion with my husband. I said, how do you feel about me going back to work full time? I wanted to make sure he was okay with it. Not because I needed his permission or anything, but if we had just kind of gotten into this different lifestyle. So he was working, but I was kind of like, I was home with a dog, and I was, he was glad to see me relaxing because I'd been so stressed, and, doing things I enjoy, walking, running, taking the dog out, doing puzzles, reading books, whatever I wanted to do, I was doing. But I found, like, for the most part, like, I'd be sitting on the couch, like, twiddling my thumbs, like, oh my God, I've got to do, like, I'm too young. Like, I am too young to just be not using my gifts that I've been given and the training that I've, gone out and gotten, and my experience that I have. And so I told them yes. I said, yeah, I'm in.
So you're the director. You're the director now.
Yes.
Too. Okay. And so this is great. This is so much great. So you went from teaching for 30 plus years,
Yeah,
you're a reading specialist, getting your principal certification, retiring early, living your best life, moving to Queens Village, and just walking by and saying, let me go into childcare, and then doing pharmacy. That is a story to tell. And now you're a full-time director. As a brand new director, tell us a little bit about that. I know, I was fortunate enough, let me just say this, to speak with Marjorie in her beginning days, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. So tell us a little bit about that, like walking in and you're like, oh my gosh.
Well, the interesting thing is that throughout my career, I had done I had done a lot of in-servicing. I was fully trained in Wilson Reading. And so I did a lot of in-service training within my district. And I also, at one point, worked with a fellow teacher to revamp our entire, back then they called it basic skills program. So we totally trained all our teachers. We ordered all, new materials, and we revamped how intervention reading was done in our building. And one of the things that I had been frequently told is, you should teach college, by my co-teachers. They're like, you have an ability to convey information to us in a way that we get it, we buy into it, and we can go out and do it. So I had frequently been told this. So again, kind of like I told you when you asked me to do the podcast, I was like, what? You've got to be like, I guess it's just it's a character flaw in myself that I just don't have that inside strong, that feeling that I can do what you're telling me that I can do.
Oh, like what you impart to the children you were helping read.
Yeah. So maybe that is that connection. That's that empathy, because I have felt and feel like you are feeling. You're an 8-year-old feeling this way. I'm a 54-year-old feeling this way, but it's the same feeling. Yeah. But yeah, I've never really thought of it that way. But so anyway, yeah, I have been told frequently that, you're a leader. You have leadership skills. The whole reason I went for my principal certificate is because that nurturing principal told me that I should. You can do this. Go do it. And then I ended up not, within my public school years, not utilizing it in a formal way. But so that was part of the conversation that I had going on with myself, is that, you have this training that you, in essence, never, quote unquote, did anything with. This is an opportunity to maybe see where that can go. Can you do this leadership thing that everyone has been saying along the way that you can do? So, I am a lifelong learner. I love to learn. So I was never afraid that I couldn't learn what I had to do. Um, what I wasn't expecting is the speed in which I would have to do it. Yeah.
It's a lot. Yes.
A lot. Yeah.
It's a lot. And I think what I love, two things that I definitely want to point out is one, for all of us leaders, I think it's so important for us to hear how we literally could make or break a teacher or a staff person. Like, we could literally be the support for them, or we could literally pull the joy from them.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so many times we need to look within to see how we are impacting our staff within the program, because you had that principal who poured so much in and walked by and gave hugs and just a reassuring and supportive feeling. Well, he provided that feeling for you, which caused a lot of that joy so that you could trickle that down to children. And then when you had a different type of leader, it sucked it all away. And I think it's important for us to hear that and know that, we have that power, if you will. Not that, we control people, but we affect people, and we could affect them positively or it can be negatively. That was one. And the other was, I would love for funders, legislators, like all people who could sometimes feel like early childhood education is not a profession in its own right. We have someone who came from the school district and taught elementary school and has a background and a long history and credentials. These are the type of staff that we have teaching young children under the age of 5 or early childhood education. And so that's why we're always demanding, respect and proper funding. Because
talk about money.
Yes. Like money, it takes, right? So it was okay to pay you X amount of salary when you were in the school district and you were in that position. Listen, we're here, and so we deserve that. So I just wanted to point those two things out. And you mentioned it was a fast track. So coming in as a director is not always easy. Trust me, I know. It literally happened to me as well. I tell the story. I was like laid off from my whole department, and my fashion job was closed down. And I walked into the center. I was a partner with my mom the same day and literally enrolled in CCP in the community college, and had to learn quickly. And it's a lot of learning on top of real-time leading. So it's like no one teaches you how to lead. You jump in and you're like, okay, and you just have to do it. If you could say, I wish I had these 3 things as a new director, for many of us who are leading other directors, what would you say you wish you had been given or provided as a new director?
Well, coming into a school that's been established, so they've been established in that location for, I think, 9 years now. So I wish I was part of the conversation in developing the mission and kind of their core values, because I'm coming into those, so they're not my own. Not to say that I don't agree with what's there. Part of what I'm trying to do with my staff is, I don't even think they could tell you what the mission or our core values are. Yet it's the very first thing I looked for. And so I am trying to bring that to them in a way, I want them to understand that first. Yes. So being a part of that conversation of the mission and the core values, that would have been helpful to be part of that creation. I also would have created it with the staff, not create it and serve it to them, but let's what are we all about? So that would be number 1. The second thing would be to have had a say in the people that have been hired. So I think I mentioned that I really think that being an ECE teacher is a calling, and they're certainly not in it for the money. because the pay is terrible. But
It's a good word for
just being part of,
I have other words for it, but I'm
yeah,
it. That's a whole podcast.
yeah, this PG, it has to be clean. But yeah, just having it, because I think there would be a certain person that I would be looking for, so if I've kind of taken this mission and I've taken this vision and these core values, you're looking for a person who kind of fits in that. I think as we've talked in the cohort, there are certain things you can teach. I can teach them to use creative curriculum. I can teach them to take anecdotal notes. I can teach them to be prepared for a parent conference or to set up their centers. I can teach all that if I need to. But there's a certain person that you're looking for. You're looking for an energy. You're looking for an excitement. You're looking for, someone who takes pride in and loves what they're doing. Like I loved what I was doing all the time. So having more of a say, and I think over the years I will, but just coming into it this January into now, that's been part of my struggle. I think I've taken on, I'm such a perfectionist and I do 120%, in my job. So I'm learning to, all right, if you want to do this, that's great, but maybe that's an April thing, or maybe that's a May thing. I'm trying to,
it's that visionary.
Trying to keep it so that it's manageable and not like so unattainable that I don't do it.
Yes.
So that's one thing I've learned from you guys is to, have that long planning, that long range, and have your goals, and, do plan it out, have an intention, and, work through it. I'm not going to change, Rome wasn't built in a day, and I'm not going to change this preschool in 3 months. So just having the patience and the grace with myself you'll get there.
You have done some magical things, which we're going to lead to in a few minutes.
I mean, we're talking 3 months.
Yes.
Yeah. And I don't know if I can think of a third. Maybe just having more of a, an understanding. Part of it is being frustrated with myself is I don't know the curriculum. Like I don't know creative curriculum teaching strategies. They say we're Emilio Reggio inspired. Like I didn't know anything about that. I just went to a training on it, but so just having more of an education within myself of what I'm expecting. I feel like I can't expect my staff to do something if I don't fully understand it myself. So I need to kind of get much more familiar with it so that I can do what I have been told I'm good at, taking information, taking a program and relaying it to those that need to do it. But having that confidence in myself and knowing what I'm talking about. I want to know what I'm talking about. I don't want to just talk at you to say you need to do it, because then how can you buy into it if I don't fully understand it? So those would be my 3 things.
Oh, that's great. And the one thing that came to mind, and I'm always saying that, especially when we're talking about hiring, being in a hiring crisis, sometimes in the industry, we're quick to kind of hire the body, but something you said that made me think about how I approach it too is like hire the character and teach the skill. Because like you said, you get that person and they do great at lesson plans, but they are not a team player. Yeah. And it's really difficult to maintain the culture that you want in your program. So I think that's something that we really need to think about despite the staffing crisis, right? If we want someone long-term who can really bring positivity and we want them to stay. We want good character and we want someone, like you said, fit the culture of the program. That is huge. So you pointed out so many of those foundational things that we as business owners in childcare really have to constantly think about are those core values, the work culture, and the people we hire. And from there, all the other stuff, we can develop it. We can have time to learn the curriculum, but we can have a great curriculum, but if we don't have good people or the right people, we're constantly we're redoing it over and over, and we're wondering why we can't move forward is because we're stuck with the wrong people. So that was great. That was,
and it's something that, Aaliyah, you're very familiar with. When we say it all the time, hire slow, fire fast.
That's it.
That's it, right? Because you can have some exceptional employees, and that one employee is going to mess the whole entire thing up. So, there are times where you literally have to hire, that's something we pride ourselves in our organization. We bring them in for interviews, second interview, and then we're like, let's vote this person in. If one person saw a flaw, we hold that vote. We don't go ahead and be like, oh, well, let's hire, right? It has to be unanimous decision. And I don't care how desperate we are. I would go into a classroom before we hire the wrong people.
Yeah.
Honestly. So, and I wanted to mention that Marjorie is also in one of our students in our Exceptional Bilingual Fellowship Leadership Program. So I know that happened. You joined very early on, right, in your 3 months. How is that? Has the program been able to help you make connections to your new role?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we'll talk about things in class, and I'll spend, if we have a Saturday class, I'll spend Sunday like, how can I implement this on Monday? Absolutely. I mean, I have my shout out wall up, and I can't. I have to, again, with everything else these days. I end class like my brain is like, out to here with, and I have to kind of sift through it and think, what is most useful for my school at this moment. Yes. And put that in the planning phase and kind of keep the other things. I'm praying that after May, that life will slow down, at least through August. There'll be some breathing room once we get through this Keystone redesignation process. And I can go back and look through, everything else. And, between the class and, going through this process, and I'm realizing, oh, well, we need to do this. Like the one thing that I realized the other day was we really should have an annual review of all our policies and all our procedures and like things that haven't been done. And I feel like I don't know what I don't know. And so one thing this class has taught me is that you need to know this. This is important and this is important. So it's putting everything on my radar, and I can get back to it. Just kind of taking it day by day, month by month.
It takes me back to something you said that you taught your students, which was, you've got it. Just when the time comes and you need to use it, go back in your toolbox and grab what you need. Yeah. And you describing yourself, it reminds me of myself, because I'm a visionary. So I constantly have these idea moments. Oh my goodness. And I was asked one time by one of my coaches, you have great ideas, Aaliyah, but like, who grounds you?
Right.
And I thought that was such a great, like, you need someone in your life, I mean, at work and at home, who kind of grounds me, because when I say my ideas, I'm like, oh my gosh. But I don't want to overwhelm my staff, because it's like, but we're still here. We're still implementing this.
Aaliyah no Biama ground me, because it's
like, let's pull it back a little bit. And so we always talk about environment. We talk about environment, which is why we love our community, our EBL, our Exceptional Bilingual Leadership Fellowship community, even our like friendship community. Like, the people you surround yourself with is so important to be strategic, so that you also have someone who can ground you and help you, kind of sift through ideas, because it is a lot of information. And to be a director, depending on how everyone's structure is, sometimes it's just you. I am blessed enough to have a team, and we come together and I can bounce ideas off of. Everyone doesn't have that, which is why it is important to connect with a community so that you can have ideas. And you guys love going out in the breakout rooms because you have someone to kind of talk to, have ideas. Sometimes it feels like we're in silos when we're in our programs because
Yeah.
all we know is what's in our program. And it's like, is it just me? So I definitely suggest, all of us to have a community, someone to ground you, someone to bounce ideas off of, to share when you're frustrated, and
Yeah. Well,
all
the
of
group has also been very supportive, and it's almost like having a set of cheerleaders, like you're like, yeah, you can do it. You're doing awesome. And I'm like, okay, I can do another week, so it's been very supportive in that way too.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
I'm
I love it. I
thinking,
love
I'm
it.
thinking of, the peer learning circles that we used to have years ago as directors, right?
Yes.
Especially after COVID, we all felt, or I felt, let me just speak for me, alone,
Yes.
right? Like we're going through this by ourselves. And Aaliyah and I sit on a few boards together, and we're in other circles together. So it's really important for me to be able to be with people that was going to help build me up. Yes, we're going to talk about, the staffing challenges, but we're also going to talk about what we're going to do to get over that staffing challenges. We're going to talk about finances. What is it that we need to do? I remember having a conversation with Leah, I think this was years ago, and I was like, girl, let's pay our mortgages. Let's do mortgage.
So
like I think she perked up and it was like, let's talk, so, things like that where, these are the out of the box ideas, but we're like, okay, how can we make this idea go ahead and, push this through? And that's the birth of the Exceptional Bilingual Fellowship Program, right? Where we were like, there is no leadership cohorts the way that we created, and we were very intentional about creating 18 weeks, what is it, 18 weeks worth of content. And I tell you, I think 18 weeks is not even enough for everything that we have to offer with 50 years of combined experience. So we try to create this platform and really support, where leaders are going to get together, right? Different walks of life. Look at Marjorie, coming from a school setting, right? Fifth grade, and all the experience that you have coming into childcare and coming into a new program that you will have to redo, right? Or save, right? At that moment, and others, right? Because your stories, it's not just your stories. We have people that are in our program that have been in it for a while, and they're just like, we need the meat and potatoes. Like we need support that's really not out there for them. So I'm so happy that, I love this fellowship. I really believe in it. I really love to see all the, fellows in there and growing, and holding each other accountable. So it becomes like this big cheerleading, like you said, big cheerleading thing. And with a world of childcare that changes so much.
Yes.
We go to sleep tonight, and tomorrow morning we're waking up to a new regulation.
Yep.
Right. So now we have to change everything around, right? Or a new Keystone Star standard, or we lost directors in instruction credentials. Now we have to go and get all PQAL certified. Like it's just ongoing, and it's very, very frustrating when these big people are making these regulations and not really listening to the field, right? I wish that they would enter one of our cohorts and really listen in to what, tune in to what the field is experiencing and how they're learning. And because we are the experts. So I just wish that this is definitely another podcast, but I really definitely wish that, they would join us, right, in talking. But so Marjorie, I have a question for you, because this is about you. This is not about, those bigger organizations. What have you implemented in your 3 months at this new location as a leader that you're very proud of? and that's working?
What have I implemented? I've implemented a few things. My biggest conundrum right now is, like you said, there's all these standards and different things that have to happen. But I don't want to be a micromanager. So, I'm trying to build a culture and empower my teachers in a way that, they want to be part of something bigger than themselves. And I think the thing I'm most proud of is that there's been you can definitely feel a difference when you walk into the building than you felt before. And I think, I've gotten some pats on the back by teachers who have, said how much they appreciate the professionalism, the transparency, just being told that you have to do A, B, and C. Like they were so in the dark. But I have to say, one of the other day, I think it was one day late last week, I had not a tutor, but someone who was coming in to work with a child on in speech.
Okay, therapist.
Thank you. And she came into the building, and it was her first time in the building. So I met her at the door, and I introduced myself, and I walked her to the classroom, and I introduced her to the teacher, and I introduced her to the child. And I talked to her a few minutes myself. I did not know that she was coming, so I didn't have her clearances. I wanted to make sure that she had all her clearances to be in the building. And she did, and she said she would send them right to me. And I just let her go do her thing, and I went back into the office, only later to be told by the teacher whose room she was working in that so-and-so said from the minute she walked in the door, she felt that she was in a real school and that she was so impressed by just that feeling of welcomeness and warmness that from the time she was in there till the time she left. And to me, that I would have to say that's my biggest accomplishment is that you can feel a palpable welcome when you're in the building.
That's it. You can't fake that.
No.
High five. That's a high five.
And I'm pretty sure the families, I mean, I know you can't see me, but I'm double high fiving. I'm pretty sure the families, like if you're doing any tours, new tours in your building, yes, even existing families, I'm pretty sure they see the difference.
Yeah, I had a woman come in today. It was a grandmother, and it was a grandmother of a potential new child. So I had been working with the father, did a virtual tour. They're moving from California, so they're dealing with all this stuff virtually. And so his mother happened to be in the neighborhood, and he sent me an email. My mom is in the neighborhood right now. Would you be able to give her a quick in-person?
Oh.
And I said, sure. Have her come on by. I'll meet her at the door. And she came in, saw the toddler room, and we talked for a few minutes. And she asked me the question. She said, you and I are of the day and age where we send our kids to daycare. She said, what's the difference between daycare and your school? Which I thought was a good question. And, so I gave my answer, and she, I showed her just the downstairs, the toddler room, gross motor room, and we talked a little bit. And I answered her questions, and she said, you've done a fine job here. She said, I am going to tell my son to get back to you, give you his answer. And she said, this would be a great place for my grandson to be. And so again, the proof is in the pudding. And I think that's, I just have to pat myself on the back once in a while. I'm getting there. That's my number one thing, is just to make, I want my families to feel welcome. I want them to feel part of the process. They are part of the process. And I just think that, we're all a team, whether it's grandparents, nannies, parents, the children, my teachers, we're all on the same team. Yes. And we got an important job to do, but it's so much fun.
So what I will not do is I will not even try to pack anything on top of that. I feel like that is the perfect bow to wrap up this podcast, because that's what this is all about. And I would say leaders, business owners, that is the type of stuff when we talk about it's a staffing crisis and what kind of recruiting strategies can we use for enrolling children and for recruiting staff. That is what's needed, right? So there's no list of or tools or checklists or things that we can give. Those are nice, but you can't fake when you walk into a space and you feel the shift in the environment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we all hear about that. Well, it is like a spiritual quote, if you will, but it's like, you know, let your light shine to the point where someone wonders, what is it about you? That's the kind of space that you want for your program. When someone walks in, they want to know more, like, tell me more. And, you know, we don't want to make up stuff to kind of bring people in. We want to tell the truth and we want them to feel it. And so I think you did an amazing job. I remember when we, you know, kind of first had our class, your smile is different, your energy is different. And I'm assuming that is also representative of what people are saying they feel in your program. So congratulations on all that you've done. I don't even want to say 3 months. I want to say 90 days. Like if we think about what that is, and it's really less than 90 days because that includes weekends. But, you know, if we really put into perspective all that you've done in your 90 days and less of being in your early childhood education program as a new director, pat yourself on the back.
Yes.
You deserve that. Thank you for not only coming onto the podcast, we really appreciate it, but also for bringing all of your passion and your love to the field. And just thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for everything. Thank you for all your support, both of you, as always. Yeah, it's a journey, and I'm glad I got you guys on the journey with me.
Thank you. This is what we do it for. This is what we do it for. So, Damaris, did you want to say anything before we wrap up this amazing?
No, I think you just did it so eloquently, so beautifully, Marjorie. You are amazing. Don't you ever forget it. I can't wait to see all of your growth. I mean, you are in the process of also in the 90 days, guys. I don't know if you caught that. She is doing Keystone Stars renewal for Star 3 or 4. Which one?
We are currently at Star 3, but we're working towards Star 4. Yes.
Yes, in 90 days, guys.
And we just got granted Philly Pre-K. So
yes.
Granted
for Philly Pre-K, getting ready for the new school year, getting ready to change some regulations.
Yeah, changing it up a little bit.
Yeah, you are doing an amazing job. Don't you ever forget it. Amazing.
Thank you.
I want to give you your time back because I know you had a long day. You'll have another day tomorrow. So enjoy your evening. Thank you all for joining us. Damaris, safe travels. Enjoy the family. And until next time, thank you for joining us on the Impact Podcast.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
I can't hear.